Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you ever so much for joining us today. My name's Zoe. I work in the Schools and Colleges engagement team, and I'm really pleased to introduce you today to our psychology talk. So I hope you enjoy the talk, and we'll have lots of time for questions and answers afterwards. So if you do have any questions as we're going through the presentation, please do post them, and we'll make sure that we have time to get through as many as we can at the end of the presentation. So I'm now going to hand over to Igor. Thank you so much, Igor.
Hello, everybody. So first of all, thank you for your interest in psychology. I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm the head of department for psychology, and I want to introduce two other people involved in psychology. The first one is Stephanie Sayan. If you want to say something.
Hello, nice to meet you all virtually. My name's Steph, and I am one of the teaching fellows in the Department of Psychology.
And the next person is Alexander Poole.
Hi everybody, I'm Alex and I'm a student ambassador for psychology.
Okay, thank you, Alexandra. So I'll start now with the talk. So who are we? Our psychology department in Hull has about 550 students in total, so that includes undergraduate students and postgraduate students and 30 members of staff. So we are not a tiny department, but we are also not a student factory, so medium size, which helps us to get to know our students, and the students get to know us, which significantly improves the way we work actually together. Now, historically speaking, where do we come from? So we're actually one of the oldest psychology departments in the UK. So we started out as a branch of the University College London in 1928, where psychology then was taught in Hull together with philosophy. And in 1954, we became a department in our own right. So we have about 90 years of teaching experience in psychology. And over this time, we developed three core principles in terms of how we deliver our program. So one core principle is student support. We are committed to enhance student support throughout all aspects of our degree. Second point is we focus on career building skills. So it's not just important that we train psychologists to know and be experts in psychology, but also to learn a lot of transferable skills which makes them employable. And the final point is the principle of research-led teaching. And I hope in the next few slides, I'll be able to show you how we set that up in practice, actually. So I mentioned our research-led teaching. So we insisted all our staff are experts in their respective fields of research. And the reason for that is that if you are taught by experts, you have people who have state-of-the-art knowledge of psychology. Psychology is a very fast-moving field where essentially often information or common knowledge that is established at some point in time gets outdated within 10 years. So the problem with that is, of course, that if you base your teaching only on textbooks, it takes about 9 years until a paper is published and appears in a textbook. And by that time, you're actually reading it in a textbook. That sort of information might already be outdated. And that's where essentially research expertise comes in. So these are people who know exactly what they are talking about, who conduct state-of-the-art research themselves, and above all, they're enthusiastic about their topic, which is a significant plus, if you like, when it comes to delivering the teaching. So where is our staff when it comes to research? We have 4 main clusters. So one cluster is cognition and development. Then we have people who do research in what is called cognitive and clinical neuroscience. We also have a number of clinical and health psychologists. And the final group that has been recently established is people who are doing research in an area that's called human factors. This human factors thing is probably the one that is the least clear when you look through these things. And this is a group of people who look at work system designs. So they're looking actually at how to ameliorate or optimize work systems to reduce the number of human errors. So one example to give you is they are working, for example, with Siemens. And they're looking at engineers who are tasked with maintaining wind turbines in the North Sea. So they're looking at the effects of harsh environment and of seasickness, for example, on their ability to function properly, to make the right decisions and to avoid accidents, and therefore create new processes in the way to make their work actually better and actually themselves also more safer, if you like. So the second point is because we are a research-intensive department, we obviously have specialist psychology teaching facilities, but also research facilities, which I'll bring up in a later slide, which you can also use while you're studying. We are also accredited by the British Psychological Society. So since 1970, when the British Psychological Society has been created, and this is the accrediting body for psychology programs. And every 5 to 8 years, a program has to go through a new re-accreditation procedure. And we passed the last accreditation, which was in March 2019, actually with flying colors. And we have been particularly recommended for the support we provide for our students in the context of the academic support tuition system. And I'll explain this a little bit more later on. We also have a unique route, fast-track route, to qualify as a clinical psychologist. And we offer to spend a trimester abroad with one of our 4 European partner universities. So we are partnered up with Bergen in Norway, Osnabrück in Germany, the Saxon University in the Netherlands, and also the University of Malta. But this is quite popular with our students because all those courses are actually taught in English. And if you take this trimester abroad, you will not have to add another trimester at our university because the degrees or the assessments are essentially mutually acknowledged. Facilities, as I mentioned, we have a wide range of different kit. So we have an eye tracking lab, we have systems to record brain function. So we're working together with Hull Royal Infirmary for some magnetic resonance imaging scanning. We have what is called a functional near-infrared spectroscopy system, which essentially can identify blood flow changes in the brain. It is non-invasive and it can be used with children, so you can actually see what's going on in the brain. We have neurostimulation systems. We have an EEG system and also a lab in the Center for Health and Clinical Neuroscience, where we assess outpatients. For example, patients with mild cognitive impairment or patients who are experiencing a dementia onset, and also patients with addiction, for example. We then have also an audio laboratory and a baby lab. So this is a lab that's specifically set up to do research in infants, and you can imagine it needs a specialist set up because infants are a little bit tricky if you want to do some research on them in a lab. Okay, so in terms of our degrees, I will in this talk mainly focus on the BSc Psychology and Psychology with Criminology degree, but I also would like to point out that we offer a Psychology Foundation year. And postgraduate level, we have MSc and MRes by research. So these are 1-year research programs. We have a postgraduate program, MSc Clinical Applications of Psychology. And then, of course, we have the clinical psychology doctorate. I'll talk more about this a little bit later. And then we offer 3-year PhDs. Some of these are funded. So we are part of what is called the White Rose Doctoral Training Partnership, which with the University of Leeds and Sheffield and York, that allows us to bid for Research Council money for fully funded PhDs, and we are pretty successful with that. We get about 2 fully funded PhDs per year. And because of that, we also get fully funded PhDs from the university. Future developments. I would like to point out that some of them are no longer that much in the future. So we offer now different award streams. So one is psychology with neuroscience, the other one is psychology with clinical psychology, and the third one is psychology with applied psychology. So you will be able in your second year to select specific final year modules that would specialize you in one of these 3 award streams. It goes without saying that you can also still have your BSc Psychology general degree, if you like. In that case, you would take a pick and mix approach when it comes to the final year modules. What we are also preparing, so all the paperwork for this has been gone through, is actually a psychology with industrial placement year. So this would be a 3+1 program, where in your second year, you will apply for an industrial placement. And if you get it, you will just do your third year in the industrial placement and then come to our final year in the 4th year. If you were not to get it, you would move directly from the second year into the 3rd year. So as I said, the paperwork for this is all done. At the moment, it's simply on hold because of the pandemic, but we expect this to be fully rolled out in 2021-22. A longer shot is a program we're currently working on, and this is for clinical associate psychologists. This is a 1-year program where service providers will essentially fund your student fees, and you are guaranteed a post as an associate psychologist in a private or public healthcare environment. We are waiting here currently for the framework to be decided on by Public Health England, including healthcare providers. And this has been a little bit delayed, again, because of the COVID pandemic. Now coming to what we currently offer at the BSc level, this is an overview over our psychology programs. So if you just look at year 1 and year 2, essentially in each semester, you will have 3 modules. And what you can also see is that this is the content that is mainly mandatory by the BPS. So any psychology department in the UK will offer the content in one way or the other. What we try to do here is to create a sort of spiral curriculum. So where you have core topics such as research skills, where you learn how to conduct an experiment or a research study and write a report up. And then we also have cognition and development, 1, social psychology and individual differences, 1, brain and behavior, 1, and then in the second year we have Cog and Dev 2, brain and behavior 2, social psychology and individual differences 2. So these are the core modules next to research skills, and the idea is that in the first year you are getting a sort of foundation, and in the second year the topics you had in the first year will be treated in more depth. And I mentioned spiral curriculum, which means we are starting from a basis where we don't expect you to have had any A-levels in psychology, bring you up at the same level in the first year. And then in the second year, we really try to go substantially more into depth. So to give you an example with research skills, in semester 1, in the first year, you would do research skills 1, which is starting out with a simple observational study and write that up. And then in research skills 2 and 3, you would conduct a laboratory-based study. and use the appropriate statistical methods to analyze your data. And in Research Skills 4, you would do a qualitative study where you learn how to interview participants and how to analyze interviews for data analysis, if you like. So it becomes more diverse in year 3 if you look at it. So here in semester 1, you can choose 2 of these options listed here. So we have about 8 options in each semester. And in the second semester, you would also choose 2 of those options while you're doing your research project in semester 1 and semester 2. I mentioned award streams and specialization. So for example, if you were to go on to and want to apply for the clinical doctorate, you would need to take certain pre-described modules, if you like. And this is an example here. So you would need to take neuropsychology, professional, ethical, and personal issues in clinical psychology in semester 1, and then clinical and therapeutic techniques in clinical psychology and introduction to assessment in clinical psychology in semester 2. If you were to go for psychology with criminology, then it looks like this, which is very similar to BSc psychology, except that in semester 2, in year 1 and in year 2, you will take 1 criminology module. You can see this here where the white slots are. And in your final year, you would choose 1 psychology module and 1 criminology module amongst those listed here in each semester. So in semester 1 and semester 2. So 4 modules in total then, while you are also conducting a research project in psychology. Okay, so the question is, what are you going to study? And I want to provide a little bit of a description about what you can expect for some select modules. So let's start with Cognition and Development 1. This is essentially a module that will introduce you to higher order cognitive or mental processes psychologists are interested in, such as memory, perception, attention, language, decision-making. And on top of that, it will look into how these cognitive processes actually evolve from infancy to adulthood. So you will not only be taught about the cognitive processes that help humans to interact with their environment, but also how these cognitive processes actually develop over the lifespan. In Brain and Behavior 2, we take a slightly different perspective because we are looking at the anatomical and physiological underpinnings of those cognitive processes. So what's the brain anatomy behind it? What sort of bodily functions are going on while people, for example, experience emotions and so forth? And it also has an element of comparative psychology in it, where essentially animal intelligence or animal behavior will also be compared to human intelligence and human behavior. And we can learn essentially by comparing our behavior in relation to animal behavior. The final one, this is a specialist module, is neuropsychology. This is a module that will look into what happens when the brain is damaged. So we would look at the brain's reaction, for example, to stroke, to head trauma, to a certain degree also when it comes to neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's. What are the physiological changes and how do these changes impact on our mental abilities and our emotions and our ability to interact with other humans? What is critical for that module is that you would learn how to identify neuropsychological syndromes, what sort of assessments methods are used, and also you learn a lot about how the damaged brain recovers. So you can distinguish between successful recovery patterns in the brain and unsuccessful recovery patterns in the brain, which in turn then might inform intervention methods to help patients recover from brain damage. So how you study? So obviously you will have scheduled hours. We are usually offering around 15 direct contact hours, timetabled contact hours in our program. And these include a whole range of ways of teaching. So we're doing, of course, large class lectures, but also seminars of up to 25 people, and then smaller tutorials with 8 to 10 people, and workshops. You will work in groups, you work on your own, and we also provide external speakers to give talks and presentations. So it is really a mix of different teachings we are doing. You will also spend roughly the same amount of time in terms of comparing contact time with your offline learning, if you like, in independent study. So where we provide you with materials and tasks which you are supposed to complete in preparation of lectures or in preparation for certain projects or particular coursework. And then finally, as I mentioned already, we offer also the opportunity for you to study abroad for 1 trimester. I said that this is essentially taught by other universities in English, and essentially your assessments, your marks are acknowledged by us. So you're moving after this straight into semester 2 in your final year. Question is how are you assessed? So we have different tools of assessment, if you like. So on the one hand, we have the sort of classic written examination where you have to complete a written assessment. So this could be essay answer questions you'll be asked to do, or short answer questions. And we're also doing multiple choice tests, usually online multiple choice tests. We emphasize practical experience. So we train our students to do, for example, video blogs about certain topics, and also presentations, PowerPoint presentations, either in a group or on their own. And finally, of course, we have a whole range of coursework that includes literature review, scientific essays, case studies, critical reviews, and the write-up of research reports, and of course your final year dissertation. What I would like to emphasize at that point is that all these types of assessments we are doing, this sort of blended approach, we are starting with this in year 1, and we are challenging you when it comes to the level of difficulty across the years. But what we are not doing is just do multiple choice question exams in your first and second year and then expect you to write the perfect scientific essay in your final year. So we are doing the whole range from year 1 with increased difficulty. So what does that mean? For example, a lot of our students are a bit anxious when it comes to presenting in front of others, doing a PowerPoint presentation in front of others. So in the first year, you will not be asked to do that alone. So there will be a formative sort of assessment where you don't get a mark, but you just have to deliver it in a group. So we would have, for example, a small group of students, 5 students, for example, who are working on a project and provide a presentation about the project. And each student takes turns to present certain elements of that presentation. And this then leads to the final year, where we have some final year modules where students are examined based on a 10-minute scientific PowerPoint presentation where they have to do a question and answer session afterwards with a pair of examiners. So you can see that our students over time gain a lot of confidence in using those tools, and then also in presenting themselves, which is really, really important to us. I mentioned the academic support tutor system in the past. So what we are doing here is each member of staff, and it doesn't matter whether the person is a teaching fellow or a professor, each member of staff is assigned 10 students in each year. So we are actually looking after 30 students per member of staff. And this member of staff will follow you through and work with you through the whole 3 years of your degree program. That member of staff will also mark quite a lot of your first and second year assessments, will arrange one-on-one tutorials with you, and will give you tailored feedback in relation to your assessments. So this is very useful because you can build up a working relationship with a member of staff who knows you, who can essentially tailor his support towards your needs. And in addition, this is another person that knows you pretty well, which comes into play when you need references. So when you apply for, let's say, postgraduate program, usually you need 2 academic references. One will come most likely from your dissertation supervisor because that person worked for a year with you on a project, and the other one will come from an academic support tutor. And that is also a person that knows you. Why does it matter? Because if you know the student for whom you write a reference, you can provide much more contextual information about the person than rather listing, let's say, year averages, for example. And this then may, and the quality of the reference, therefore, may actually help you to secure to be, for example, shortlisted in an interview, rather than having to deal with a totally neutral reference. So the university offers also what is called a skills team. This is run by the library conjointly with us. So they are providing not only technical support when it comes to reasonable or adjustments for your exams. And you can actually rent out, or they lend out computers to you or dictaphones if that's necessary, and they run their own workshops for basic academic skills, such as for writing scientific essays, for example. So they are a great source that supports you and us as well. Finally, coming to the clinical doctorate. So our program is unique to in that we offer a sort of fast track route to the clinical doctorate. So in your final year, you can apply for a 3-year clinical doctorate program, which is essentially funded by the NHS. So you would be paid a full NHS salary, around 30K, while you're doing this 3-year program, and you are pretty much guaranteed a job afterwards if you enter it. Now, we are running this together with York. The places are limited, I have to say. So we had in the past around 12 places. This has since this year now increased to 19 because of the government's health initiative. And usually half of our students go onto the program and half the students from York. But this is really a great opportunity, career opportunity. In terms of employability, so what we are emphasizing on is that you're not just becoming experts in psychology, but we emphasize on you developing skills that relate to your improving your analytical and problem-solving skills, along with your experience in research and communication skills, as well as information management skills. This is a whole skill set that is not specific to psychology, although you're going to use it while you study psychology, but it makes you highly employable. And we have the data to support that. So 96% of our students, they are either in graduate level work or in further studies 6 months after graduating. So what can our students do? At the psychology level, so there's a whole variety of different jobs out there. So you can work as a clinical psychologist, you can work in forensics as an occupational psychologist, educational psychologist, neuropsychologist, counselor, sport psychologist, and much more. So we have students who went into human resources, into public relations, community services, they work as teachers, They work as nurses. And I have even one colleague of mine who insists that one of his students got employed by the MI6. So there's a whole range of things you can do, even if you don't want to specialize on psychology per se. Now, coming to tariffs, our foundation year tariff is 80 UCAS points, so that's equivalent to 1C and 2 Ds. If you want to study psychology or psychology with criminology, our entry tariff is 120 for both, which is the equivalent of 3 Bs. So, talking money finally, if you were to come in on the 120 UCAS points, you would automatically qualify for a university's merit scholarship of £2,000. If you were coming in via clearing with 112 UCAS points, you would still qualify for an attainment scholarship of £1,200. And finally, there's an additional studentship depending on the household income. If your household income is less than £25,000, you could also receive £1,000. Now, this money can be either spent as cash or it can be used to reduce your fees as well, or you can use that to pay for student accommodation as well. Okay, so this is more or less my story about our department and what we are doing and how we are doing it. And I would like now to take the opportunity to hand over to Alexandra to tell a little bit about her student experience. So Alexandra is studying our BSc Psychology program and she is in her final year. So over to you, Alexandra.
Hi everyone, so I'm Alex. I am a third year, well, just about to graduate. So I'm just going to briefly cover a few aspects of the student experience, which, as you can imagine, can be quite busy, quite stressful in your first year when you come in, quite daunting. But I have to say there is so much support when you come to Hull. It's, I just can't express how much support you get when you come to Hull, especially from the psychology department. I mean, I come from Shrewsbury, which is 4.5 hours away to come to Hull. I was totally alone when I came and felt really out of my depth. And as soon as I got here, I was welcomed by the psychology department, by absolutely everybody. And as soon as you get in, you're just inundated with support. So in first year, you have this Pass Mentor scheme, which is a student-led tutor scheme, which is during your first semester. It's a content-based scheme. So basically, there are second and third year students who will lead a little seminar on any content that you're covering. You can ask for them to cover certain content, or they'll cover content that they struggled with during their first semester. And that's basically just to help you in case you're struggling with anything. So that's really helpful and is quite nice if you're still getting used to going and asking the lecturers for help. Because that's something that you do get used to doing, but in your first semester, a lot of people find it quite daunting going up and asking for help. So that's a great scheme. And also it usually means that you end up making friends in second and third year, which is super helpful for when you get further along the line. There's also a peer mentor scheme, which you meet your peer mentor in your first AST session, which is your tutor that you have throughout your 3 years at uni. And I was a peer mentor, and basically that's a third or second year student again who is assigned to your tutor group, and they give you a tour of the campus. They tell you about the psychology department. They show you where your lectures are. They make a group chat for you. So I had a WhatsApp group chat for my group. And we just help the students basically with how to submit things on Canvas if they're struggling, how to download SPSS onto their laptops. I mean, the IT department will usually do it for you, or a lecturer will, but sometimes it's just easier to ask another student. But that's another supportive stream that the psychology department's put in place for you. And it's also really nice because straight away you've got a group chat of your peers. You know, it's about 10 students who are going to be in all of your lectures for the next, well, definitely 2 years, maybe 3 if they choose the same modules as you in third year. And you can communicate, you can talk to them about lectures, organise meeting for lectures and things. And it's just so lovely to have. I think it's a really great scheme, something that I really enjoyed participating in myself. Whilst I'm speaking about your personal tutor, your AST, you have regular contact with them, and they are the person who you will they'll be in charge of your research projects for your Research Skills 1, and you'll actually do your research project with your the people who are in your tutor group. So it's great to get to know them and have that group chat already, because you're going to be doing a group project with them for your first, not your first Research Skills project, but I think it might have been your second or third, maybe. I'm not gonna say for sure because I can't remember. I know one of them's a group one. But yeah, so you have regular contact with your AST, and I know that I have used my AST so much. My AST is Kim, and he has been an angel. I have emailed him constantly. I mean, especially through COVID, he's had Zoom hours, and I've just rung him every Thursday at 10 o'clock every single week, just to say hi. He doesn't mind. He loves a little chat. But throughout my entire time at university, whenever I had an issue, either academic or pastoral, he was there to help me. If I was ever struggling to meet a deadline, he would help me. You know, he would help me put in for an extension or a mitigating circumstance so that I could do it later when I was more capable of doing it, so I could reach my best. Just a really great system to help you feel at ease and help you through the work. And if you are not feeling comfortable with the leap from A-levels to university, they are fantastic and walk you through anything or signpost you to somebody who can help you. Another support system and help is group chats. There's always a Facebook group chat for psychology. We are such a communicative department. Everyone's always talking. You will know everybody in your year group because you just do. So we always have a Facebook group chat, and there's always somebody from an older year group in the Facebook chat just to give you extra information and things. We also have student reps who go to faculty meetings and things. But outside of our course as well, there's so much to do psychology related and not psychology related. I mean, the University of Hull has so much going on that you will always be busy, even if it's not doing your psychology degree. I mean, I got involved with the Psychology Society. I was the charity coordinator, and I did so much. I was so busy raising money and things. But not only that, we did things like we organised a brain dissection for people to come along to. We had a Christmas party with staff and students, which was so much fun. We did it after we presented our dissertation posters, which was just brilliant. We had a quiz night. We do socials and things, drinking and non-drinking socials. We do movie nights and things, so you get to know people in all the different year groups as well. So there's a lot going on. You will never be bored, that's for sure. I mean, there are loads of other societies and sports and things that you can get involved in. There's never a dull moment, that's for sure. I myself, I have applied for the doctorate and have got an interview for the doctorate. Fingers crossed. So I did the clinical modules in third year. There are loads of different modules to choose from in third year, and I've spoken to people on all the different modules and they love them. No matter what module you choose, they're all something different and all very interesting. So I know a lot of people, when they come in first year, you get asked, put your hand up if you're interested in the clinical, and so many people put their hands up. And by the end of the second semester, it's about 50% of those people have put their hand down, and because they've chosen different routes. Psychology has so many different options that you can go down. So don't feel pressured about the clinical route is something that I would definitely say, because a lot of people do give feedback saying, I feel really pressured to go down this clinical route. There's so much more to psychology than that. It is great. I mean, I'm obviously really interested in the clinical route. That's why I want to do the clinical doctorate, but there's a lot more to it. But I'll just round up by saying Hull is fantastic. I couldn't have loved my time here more, and hopefully I'll get to spend another 3 years here. There are so many fantastic opportunities. Everybody in the faculty is amazing. You can talk to anybody, any lecturer you can go to with any problem, and they're just there to help. So yeah, it's just fantastic. But that's all from me, basically.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Alexandra, for sharing your experiences. It seems like there's been loads of support and communication that you've had with the other students. We've just got a couple of minutes now for some questions that have been coming in. We've had quite a few questions, but I'm just going to pick a couple. So one of the questions that we've had, and I'll come to Steph for this if that's okay, is what advice do you have for an individual who is interested in both the psychology course and the psychology with criminology course?
That's an excellent question, thank you. So the good news is that they are both BPS accredited, which is really important when you're thinking about what you want to do next with your degree. What I'd encourage you to do is look on the website, and you can find out a little bit more about the different courses that each stream have. So Igor mentioned that, for example, in first year, there's our straight psychology students do our global challenges module, whereas our psychology with criminology students do a different module. So I'd encourage you to go read about those modules, find out a bit more, and then look at the third year modules, which is when kind of the big differences come in, and just see which modules take your fancy, and that might help you make your decision.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you, Steph. We've had another really good question, and I'll come to Igor for this one. What types of experience would you recommend for gaining the clinical doctorate program, please? Sorry, I'll read that one again. What type of experience would you recommend for gaining a place on the clinical doctorate program?
Okay, this is an interesting question. So essentially, the sort of experience people in the panel would look for is working in a sort of care environment in the largest sense. It can be working in a charity, it can be working in a nursing home, and it should be something that over time, we're talking about a 2-year period where you can do some work placements, if you like, on your own. That should lead to an experience where not just doing the occasional week of shadowing somebody, but where you actually actively engage and you're allowed to interact with a particular team of psychologists or nurses and so forth. So what they will look at is how proactive you are in actually doing these sorts of work placements while you're studying psychology over a longer period of time. It doesn't mean that it has to be 6 months in a row, but it could be something where you have several chunks of a couple of months here and a couple of months there. But as I said, the importance is showing a sort of proactive spirit in actually seeking out those work placements. Secondly, in terms of topic, it will not work if you do a job at Pizza Express, but it would need to be something that is related to care in the largest meaning of it, in the largest sense. And it should also end up with something where you can actually actively engage in the care itself, rather than just looking at other people doing it, if you know what I mean. I hope that answers your question.
Brilliant. Thank you, Igor. And we've just got a quick one. I'll come to Steph for this one. What's the percentage of coursework and percentage of exams? So what's sort of the balance between coursework and exams?
Okay, so that is another great question, and it actually depends. Different modules have different balances. So just off the top of my head, in first year, we do actually have the Global Challenges module is actually completely coursework assessed. So students on that module do a video presentation, and then they also do a coursework essay. Whereas the other modules in first year have a more sort of typical split of maybe 60% coursework and 40% exam. But at the start of each module, you'd always be given all that information about how the course is broken down. And you'd have that information ahead of time when you were making your third year choices. So students that might really love exams could maybe consider a course that has a higher exam percentage. It really depends on the specific module.
Brilliant. Thank you, Seth. And just one last one for Igor. We've had quite a few questions around how many people apply for the doctorate in clinical psychology and what the sort of chances are of being successful. So could you go into that a little bit, please?
Okay, so these are the success chances, right? We have about, per year, about 30 students who are actually applying for the clinical doctorate. And of those, there are two stages of the selection process. So the first stage is you apply for an interview. And at that point, people will already be filtered out. A lot of it has to do with work experience, for example. And the next stage is an interview with the panel of the people who provide a clinical doctorate. That interview also includes a service provider interview. So there will be a client who will have a conversation with you, and they will have an input in the outcome of the interview process. So we could say out of 30 people, we had a very good year. So up to 10 can go on to the doctorate, if you like. So the success chances aren't that bad at all. But quite interestingly, it is not always the students who have a first-class degree and who can expect that they go on to the clinical doctorate pathway because of this combination of good marks and work experience. So if you have a high 2-1, a mark around 65 plus, but not a first, your chances are equal to somebody who has a first when everything else is taken into consideration.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much for that, Igor. Well, that's all we've got time for with questions. But if you head on over to the psychology discussion board, if you do have any other questions, you can post them on there. But thank you ever so much for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much for your interest as well. Bye-bye.